there is a lot of stuff on this topic, and we're going to try to break down a little bit of the mystery and try to give you guys just a better sense of like what goes into making something secure. So a big thing that we want to do is secure information, right? Securing items is a whole different thing, right? There's gonna be like safes and vaults and locks and keys. So we're not really going to talk about like physical security. We're talking information security. So how do you secure information? Anybody?
Encryption.
Okay. So what does that mean? What is encryption?
So you take your data traffic and make it so other people can't read it except for the person it's intended for.
Okay. So we have encryption. And like I said, you're taking your data and making it so other people can't read it. Does anybody know any types of encryption? Okay, so we have public, we're going to call this actually, public key. And we'll talk more about that later. Any other types?
Like the Diffie-Hellman.
Okay, so we got Diffie-Hellman, and that's actually the algorithm that we use for a lot of encryption. Anybody else? Maybe something like a little more basic. Tanya?
RC5.
RC5? I'm not sure what RC5 is, though. Okay.
Okay.
Is that
Like basics of.
so what is RC5, Tanya?
That's the name of the person. Request Cipher 5.
Okay. What is that? Is that one that was replaced by something we use now, or is it still in use?
No, there are new versions now, like RC something.
Okay.
The word
That's
is
what I'm not Alright. Cool. Alright, so I'm learning things. What about like, any of you guys ever play around with like encoding messages as kids? Like how did you do it back then?
Caesar.
Caesar cipher. Excellent. Caesar, which I may be spelling wrong, is Caesar cipher. So what's a Caesar cipher? Anybody?
Shift it by a number.
Okay, shift what?
The letter.
Okay, so if I have like the alphabet, like A, B, C, D, then what do I do?
Like A equals B, B equals E, C equals F.
Okay, so you have something like, alright, A is going to equal to B, and this would be like my in and my out, C, D, E, etc. So if my message is, hello, well, then I look here, I say, okay, H is this letter, and E is this other letter, A, B, C, D, E, so that'd be F. And what I end up with is something that looks like gibberish if you just look at it. But all you have to know is this key, this idea, to work backward, right? So that's really easy to work backward and decode so long as you know the key. Named Caesar cipher after, like, Julius Caesar. That was, one of the, basically, that was like the way that people did encryption back in the day. Another way you could do it is instead of this, you could just substitute in numbers. So I could say that A is going to be, 4, B is going to be 16, C is going to be 32. So you could do, these are kind of basic substitution ciphers. These, it turns out, are really, really easy to break, especially with computers. Even without computers, they're pretty easy to break. And so they're not great. We don't use them anymore for anything serious. So we have all this other stuff, Diffie-Hellman, RC5. So especially since we started doing computer stuff, really since like World War II, information security has become a really big thing. So are any of you familiar with Alan Turing? Does anybody want to tell me like what was the really big thing that Alan Turing did during World War II? Turing test is a thing, but that wasn't specifically his contribution to the war. The Enigma Machine. What did the Enigma Machine do? Right. So Turing built the Enigma Machine in Bletchley Park over in England, and it broke the encryption the Nazis were using for their codes to communicate back and forth. It was one of the big things that helped the Allies win World War II. And the reason he was able to do that is because, one thing, the Germans were repeating certain parts of their message in every message. So, like, they might end every message with Hail Hitler. Well, if you know that every single message is going to have exactly the same words, then you can start to see patterns, and it's easier to break those patterns. So, a big thing about encryption is trying to take human language and communication, which tends to have a lot of patterns. Like, if you think about, like, if you take a book and you just, like, count how many A's and how many B's and how many C's, like, every single book, every single piece of literature comes out with, like, the same percentage of each. So if you use in English, you get something. If you use in German, you get something. If you use in French, you get something. And so you can take that. If you just do something like this, then you basically like, oh, well, what percentage of B am I getting? Oh, well, that matches up with the percentage of A I would expect, and so that must be A. So you can use some pretty simple math to break stuff like that. And that's one of the things they were able to do. Now, it was a little more complicated, and you had to be able to, like, iterate through stuff really, really fast. And so that's why the Enigma Machine was a big deal, because it was kind of the first computer that could iterate through this kind of brute force methodology super fast. Now, not super fast in comparison to what we can do now, but super fast compared to what you could do with, you know, a team of people in a room doing it by hand. And actually the United States was an interesting story, how the United States communicated securely with Britain. So there is basically one way to make something 100% uncrackable, and that is to use a non-repeating key. So if you have a key that's like, say the text, you agree that like the text, your key will be the text of Genesis 1. Alright, like everybody can get access to that. You'd be like, okay, the King James Version of Genesis 1, like that's the same, everybody can get that, everyone in the world, and use that as your key to encrypt the message, and you never repeat the key, then decrypting it could literally translate to any possible combinations of letters in the English alphabet, or whatever alphabet you're using, and so you can't know when you're decrypting it which of those combinations it was. And so what the United States and Britain did is they made, for communication between like the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Britain, they made these golden records that had this key on it, and they would use each record once. And they were like, so the reason you use gold is because it is extremely resilient to degradation. And so you could know you have really high fidelity, really high quality on your signal. You don't have to worry about like, you know, stuff getting messed up. And so like we had a set and they had a set, and you know, we had to like make them identical, ship them over, and so each time one of those records was used for encrypting telephone communication between the two sides, the record was then destroyed. So it could never be used again, and nobody could ever find that key. And that's how we were able to keep perfect secure communication on at least that one channel. Now, that's a really expensive way to do something, and so it's something we don't do a lot of. And also, the problem is you both have to have like the same key, so we have to meet up, right? So, if one big thing we need to do now is we need to be able to have secure communication without meeting other people. Like, it's not that hard to have secure communication if I can take like a sheet of paper with the key all printed out, and then I can like go to the park, and at 2 a.m. in the morning I can like sneakily meet somebody and like hand them their copy of the key, and then we like sneak away and make sure nobody's following us, right? Like we do like some super spy movie stuff. But like, we don't want to do that all the time. Like every time you want to, you know, pay for something with your credit card on Amazon, you don't want to like have to like sneak over to Jeff Bezos' house to like hand him an envelope with like the key you want to use this time. That's gonna be super inconvenient. He's probably gonna get really sick of visitors. And so what we need is something where we can have secure communication without ever having met the person before, and that is where public key encryption comes in. So public key encryption does something where you use a really nifty mathematical trick, and you create actually two keys. So person A, who we're going to call Bob. If any of you have ever read about encryption, like Bob and Alice are like always the two people who communicate in encryption papers. So we have Bob, and he's going to create a key. We're going to have Bob's private key, so Bob's private key, and we're going to have Bob's, this is going to take too much, right? Let me do it this way. we're going to have B key private and B key public. So we create two keys, and these keys are in many ways like what you use for a physical lock. They're the piece of information you need to decode the message. And I'm not going to get into like the algorithms we're using for coding and decoding. Like Diffie-Hellman is one of those algorithms. You may have heard of RSA. It's another very popular way of doing encryption. And so we won't like delve into those algorithms. That gets pretty heavy on the math. But the fundamental idea isn't that complicated. You have Bob, he creates a private and public key. And this stays with Bob. This you keep secure at all times. You don't give it to anybody. You keep it in such a way that nobody can ever get access to that key. But then you take this key and you put it everywhere. And you upload it to, you know, the website, you put it on a key server, which is like a special website that's just designed for distributing public keys. You put it on your signature in your email, you upload it to Facebook. There's actually Facebook, you can put in the signature of your public key on your profile. And you just put it everywhere so that everybody knows, oh, this key belongs to Bob. And nobody can be like, oh, hey, this is Bob's public key, and fake you out because the key is so many places that you can just, oh, well, let me go double check. And it's like way too many places for some nefarious person to like replace all of them. And so Bob has a private key and a public key, and then Alice, who Bob is trying to talk to, but does not want to go meet sketchily in the park, also has a public key. So A key private and A key public. And once again, she keeps her private key private, and she publishes her public key everywhere. So we can see if we can still get a video up here. There's a really nice way of demonstrating how this works that does not involve math. So let's see if we get this to play. Are we hooked up on audio?
No.
If I plug this in, does it work?
Yes, and then you'll have to turn the knob at the bottom right of the screen, of the smart board, all the way up, and then you'll be good. Like, way more up.
I turned it. Oh, it keeps going. Oh. It's an encoder, not a potentiometer. Okay.
Chris, that was actually a great teaching moment. I'm sorry.
And let's see if I make this full screen. Will it like fit nicely? Okay.
First share a secret random number known as a key. So how can two people who have never met agree on a secret shared key without letting Eve, who is always listening, also obtain a copy? In 1976, Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman devised an amazing trick to do this. First, let's explore how this trick is done using colors. How could Alice and Bob agree on a secret color without Eve finding it out? The trick is based on two facts. One, it's easy to mix two colors together to make a third color. And two, given a mixed color, it's hard to reverse it in order to find the exact original colors. This is the basis for a lock. Easy in one direction, hard in the reverse direction. This is known as a one-way function. Now, the solution works as follows. First, they agree publicly on a starting color, say yellow. Next, Alice and Bob both randomly select private colors and mix them into the public yellow in order to disguise their private colors. Now, Alice keeps her private color and sends her mixture to Bob, and Bob keeps his private color and sends his mixture to Alice. Now the heart of the trick. Alice and Bob add their private colors to the other person's mixture and arrive at a shared secret color. Notice how Eve is unable to determine this exact color, since she needs one of their private colors to do so. And that is the trick. Now, to do this with numbers, we need a numerical procedure, which is easy in one direction and hard in the other. This brings us to modular arithmetic, also known as clock arithmetic. For example, to find 46 mod 12, we can take a rope of length 46 units and wrap it around a clock of 12 units, which is called a modulus. And where the rope ends is the solution. So we say 46 mod 12 is congruent to 10. Easy. Now, to make this work, we use a prime modulus, such as...
Alright, so we'll stop it there. So you can see it gets into some math.
No, just a little bit of math.
So, but the fundamental idea isn't that hard, right? Like, you saw how you took the colors, and without either person knowing the other person's secret color, and without ever transmitting that secret color in any way, they were able to arrive at a shared secret that no one listening in could know. And that's the fundamental way that we do encrypted things. So like if you go on Gmail and like up in the corner it says like HTTPS, that S stands for secure. And that uses this sort of encryption where you are communicating with a server, a computer server somewhere else. You're putting in credit card information on Amazon. If you're putting in your bank account information to your bank account website, all of these places come back to public key cryptography, where you aren't sitting down and like generating the public key yourself, but your browser is handling all of that encryption for you. And it's communicating with the server, and they're establishing that shared secret key. So that once you have that shared secret, now you can use that shared secret and you can encrypt something and know that the other person is the only person that can decrypt it, and they can encrypt something and know that you're the only person who can decrypt it. So you can also do this manually, and I was hoping to have a little bit of an example come up, but we're a little bit running out of time, and I was having a little bit hard time getting the software to work. But there is something that if you guys are interested in this, where did I leave my markers? Where are my markers? If you guys are interested in this, you can definitely talk to me afterward, but look up PGP encryption, which stands for pretty good privacy. No, it really does. Raymond doesn't like he believes me.
No, it's mocking.
Okay. Yeah, so like in computers we have some sometimes amusing acronyms. But that uses this concept as well, but it's more of a manual method where you can generate your own key, and then you can use it to encrypt whatever you want, and there's different pieces of software you can use. You can do it on the command line. But you can do this to make sure you're communicating securely. So, for example, how many of you heard of Edward Snowden? Yeah? So, what did Edward Snowden do?
Classified that.
Right, so he leaked stuff about specifically the NSA and other super sketchy activities that the government is up to. And he used this to be able to securely communicate with reporters about how the US government was taking advantage of the US citizens' privacy. And that's another thing that actually a lot of reporters do now, is the reporters will have these public keys out there, so that when you have a leaker who needs to come out but is in a situation where the government is going to take them down, not just the United States, all over the world. So we have around the world we have lots of regimes that have basically dictatorial governments who will prevent the citizens from talking about stuff. This sort of thing lets those people communicate with the outside world without getting killed. So encryption, like I remember being a kid and it was like, I can send a message by switching out the letters, that's cool. And then you get a little older and you realize just how important encryption is. We could not have the modern world without encryption. Everything you do online that you need any sort of security on has to have encryption. The way that we're able to allow free speech has to have encryption. Without that, you can't have free speech because the government can just always be watching you in any government and around the world. So this has allowed a lot of people to break out and let people know about terrible things that are going on around the world, while still maintaining anonymity. So one last thing I want to talk about is a little bit of password security and what makes a good password.
Wait, so I had a question.
Yes.
Eve. It was
yeah, so Eve is the one who's listening in. Eve is the attacker. So you always have to assume your communication channels are compromised. So let's say I want to share a secret with Eric, right? And I just yelled at him.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Eric. So you guys all heard that, right?
Yeah.
This is not a very secure communication channel, right? Now let's say I said, "Wie geht es dir?"
Gut, dir?
Oh, also gut. So how many of you understood that? Okay, so we have a 1%.
I feel like
So, right. So you guys some of you can assume because I didn't say anything particularly complicated. But I mean that's just a super basic thing. Like I just talk to him in a language that most of you don't speak. So right, German. So that would be kind of like the simplest way of just like, okay, you guys don't speak German. Now, of course, if any of you remember what we said or you recorded it, we have lots of ways of decoding that now. You pop in Google Translate, you're good to go. But that's the idea of like, okay, how do you secure a channel? Now, our shared secret was that we both have an understanding of German. But that's not something that like is unique to us, right? If we were in a classroom in Germany, that wouldn't have helped. So what you want is a shared secret that's unique to you and you alone, your pair. So each of us has a secret that's unique to ourselves. That's our private key. And then you combine that with your public key to create a secret that is only between the two of you and no other people in the entire world. So people can record your communication, they can tap into your network, they can do whatever they want, and they can download all the data you're sending back and forth. They can overhear you as much as they want, but if you're using this method, they can't do anything with that information that they've gotten. They can't do anything with what they have overheard. Questions? Yeah.
How do you keep your private key secure?
So that actually leads a little bit into the last little thing I want to talk about. How do you keep your private key secure? Well, so one thing you can do is you can actually put a password on your private key. So like my private key is kept in a encrypted vault on my computer that is password protected, and then the key itself is also password protected. So to use it, you have to enter a password. So yeah, keeping your private key safe is also incredibly important. So the thing you don't want to do is like keep your private key on Dropbox or iCloud or anything like that, unless you are encrypting the private key inside of a second level of encryption. So what you can do, and there's actually software that makes this pretty easy, something called Vera. It used something called TrueCrypt, and then got taken down in a way that kind of felt like the government took it down. VeraCrypt.
Someone here has used that.
Wait, Vera. Say what, Tanya?
Someone here has used that.
Oh, VeraCrypt? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, nice. So you can use this, and it will create like a little like encrypted folder on your computer that then you can like take that folder and you can like mount it like you would mount a USB drive, and then you can dismount it. When it's dismounted, it's totally encrypted, and then you can like safely upload that to Dropbox or iCloud or whatever. You also don't want to like just print out your private key and leave it lying around. So keeping your private key private, like you just encrypt, this method is only secure as your ability to keep your private key private. Yes.
So then, like, what would happen if you put your private key on like a Google Doc or something?
Oh no.
Well, hopefully nothing, right? But that would be way, way less secure. So as soon as it's not secure, you can no longer be sure that no one's listening into your communications. So as soon as you need to send an important message and your private key isn't secure, well, now you have no confidence that your communication is secure. Yes?
Why can't you just remember it?
So why can't you remember it? Mine would take out 1.5 pages to print out. Entirely random looking letters. Now, mine's a little bit extra long than it has to be, because I also have encoded into it a small black and white photo of myself. And that's one extra layer of security. So that's an extra layer of security because that gets encrypted into your public and your private key. And then, like, let's say I want to know, like, who does this, public key belong to? It says it has the name Chris Greenlee on it, but if it also has a photo of Chris Greenlee encrypted into it, that's an extra layer of being like, oh, okay, I can see that this person's name is on it, and I can see that this person's picture is also in it. So the shorter ones, you could probably, like, the minimum length for any kind of decent amount of security, go to 1/2 page of, like, random text. So yeah, that's why you can't memorize it.
Oh god, no. So like, how long can you make it? Like, what can you put in it? Like, can you put like a video?
So you can encrypt larger stuff, but it's going to very quickly become of an unwieldy size. So like the picture that I have in there is like a thumbnail. Like full size, the picture is like if you pull up a picture full size on your computer screen, so it's like regular size. I think it's like maybe like 100 pixels by 100 pixels and black and white and like reduced quality specifically to help keep that down. Like let's say you were to put like a full size picture from your phone on there, all of a sudden your key might take up like, well, how much space does it take to store a photo? A few megabytes. You convert that all to encrypted text. Now you suddenly have a text file that's maybe hundreds of pages long for your key, which then means that you have to be uploading that. So like that's got to be in your public key, and then if you want to like attach your key to your emails or like upload it to other places, it gets really, really unwieldy. So you can. I'm sure there's like some limit that like the software that people publish, there's probably like some limit of like, okay, this is like, we won't let you do it bigger than this. But you can make it way longer, it's just not convenient, and it ends up being more of a pain than it's worth. Yes?
What happens when you encrypt an already encrypted file?
If you encrypt an already encrypted file,
Yeah.
well then to read it you have to decrypt 2 levels. So like imagine you had a Caesar cipher, and you had one Caesar cipher, and you took that result, and you did a second different Caesar cipher, well then you have to back up through both steps. So yeah, like there, oftentimes for doing extra secure encryption, you'll put it through like 3 levels of encryption. And do one more question.
Are there any other disadvantages to PGP?
Other disadvantages?
Yeah.
As compared to what?
Just in general to compared to itself, like are there any disadvantages?
So like what weaknesses does it have?
Yeah.
That's probably a little more than what I can get into right now. It's definitely one of those things where like so the fundamental algorithm that it's based on, no one knows of anybody having been able to crack it. It's based on math that one direction is easy and the other direction would take like billions of years to solve. And so nobody, as far as we know, of course, who knows what the NSA has done, but as far as we know, nobody has ever broken the fundamental algorithm behind it. Now, the various implementations can have various security flaws, and that's something that like you have to keep like your security software up to date. If they realize that it's implemented in some way that has a small security flaw, and then they publish an update, you have to keep it up to date. So yeah, it's one reason like if you're always to keep like your browser and everything up to date, because they do publish security fixes when somebody discovers a flaw in an implementation of the algorithm. All right, one last thing, don't use the same password everywhere. Don't make passwords less than like, if you don't care about the thing, like 10 characters. If you care about the thing, like 15 characters. I can crack like an 8-character password on my laptop in like 5 seconds. So, yeah, don't do that. Like 8 characters is basically just a pretend password. So like, if you want to keep something secure, like nowadays with the computing power we have, like really like 15 characters is kind of the minimum. So another great thing to look up would be password managers, like LastPass or 1Password are a fantastic way to have secure passwords and not have to memorize like really long passwords and a whole bunch of passwords. All right, thank you guys. Hopefully you feel a little bit more understanding of encryption.